second step of this inquiry project is the investigate step. And that involves a lot of finding information. And I want to just kind of explain the process a little bit. So this is my first attempt at turning a unit into an opportunity for students to hear diverse voices. Again, this is focused on the antebellum era, and I wanted them to understand many different perspectives before we jumped into understanding the Civil War, because I am a social studies teacher. And this blurry picture on this slide is where I realized, okay, I did do the right thing by creating this kind of unit, because I was at the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C., in their Civil War exhibit. And as you enter, there are 8 different perspectives that they want to introduce to you before you understand the Civil War. And I thought, okay, if the Smithsonian's doing it, seems like it's the right thing to do. And so a little bit of the process, it is not a checklist, right? Equity isn't a checklist, but yet it's okay to have a checklist in mind. Curious about diversity is a check that you can add when you do your unit planning. Have I added elements that make underrepresented groups into heroes or increases understanding of a group that my students may not know a lot about? What's a poster I could add to my classroom, or a visual or something like that? So again, it did take work before this unit started. It took some preloading, perhaps we could say, to find resources, but I wanted to make sure I had balance. So as you can see, there are 4 women. There is a white abolitionist woman, there's a working class woman, there is an escaped enslaved person, there is a Cherokee woman, we have a white slave owner, a white industrialist, a white working class man, and then also a free black man. So a diversity of perspectives, so that we can understand from many different points of view. So let's talk about what's actually in the slideshow available to you. So this activity has many elements to it. So students, this often came at the beginning of the year for me, just to give context. And the key is to understand obstacles and opportunities for an authentic person from history. So there's a guiding document that kind of lets students know these are the people that you're going to be responsible for. I often let students complete a survey in advance and let me know what they're interested in. I also created a curated resource list that has primary and secondary sources available that students can use to get to know their person and to make sure that they're basing what they're doing in reliable information. Also, there's an anchor text that they're going to read. One of the skills that we work on is annotating a text, and rather than let students try that and maybe not do so well at it, I took this text. So an anchor text is sort of like, I suppose, a mentor text in an ELA class. But it's information we all need to know in order to move forward. So it breaks it down. It's got visual elements. It's got maps and things like that. It helps students to all be coming from the same spot. And they have to ask questions, and I explain to them different kinds of research questions. That's what the levels of questions document is. And then once they have this background information about their real person from history, then it is time to work on thinking about what are the obstacles that person faces. And the tool we use for doing that is to think about it like the TV show Chopped. On the show Chopped, every contestant has a basket full of challenges that they have to overcome. A final element is the pantry of democracy, and that involves some defining, and we'll come back to that in a minute. But all of these pieces are here and available to be used and available to be adapted, because if you're going to ask students to be curious about a perspective or a person they've never met before, it's really important to help them to build an educated understanding about that person. Again, it requires work on the teacher's part ahead of time, but then it allows you to really work with students closely and help them to gain confidence in their research skills.